Going to hit record and we will get started. Hi, everyone. Welcome to our Community Action State Association new staff orientation. I am Terry Bearden. I'm Project Director for Organizational Capacity Building here at the National Community Action Partnership, and I will turn things over to Mary Beth so she can introduce herself.
Yeah, hi friends. Mary Beth Schneber, REMREV. I'm the Director of Organizational Capacity Building here at NCAP. And for a little bit of perspective, I spent 7 years at a local community action agency. I spent several years at the state office, a couple of years with our colleagues at the National Association for State Community Services Programs before I joined back here at NCAP. I've had a lot of roles in the network. I have never been a state association staffer like all of you, although NCAP is a membership association, and we certainly understand that role. But really excited to just get to spend some time with you today and share some of what we know and hear what you know. And Terry, I'll pass back to you to share your street cred.
I will. I will. I,
Okay.
I will share my street cred. So I also started at a local agency, spent several years there before finding a home at the Arkansas Community Action Agencies Association. So I do have about 2 decades worth of experience working at a state association, starting out as a staff member, as the Roma person, and eventually actually spending about 3 years as the executive director. So Mary Beth and I both, bring a wealth of experience, and so we hope to be able to share that information with you. And mainly, though, we want to help you guys make connections with each other. As new staff member, I remember what it was like to think, oh my goodness, who else is out here doing what I'm doing? So we hope to help get you grounded today and really help you to make some of those connections that are going to serve you well in your careers. So we always like to ground ourselves in the promise of community action. We encourage you to really lean into the promise of community action as you go about your day-to-day work. It can really help to fortify you and strengthen your resolve for the important work that you do. Community action changes people's lives, embodies the spirit of hope, improves communities, and makes America a better place to live. We care about the entire community, and we are dedicated to helping people help themselves and each other. All right, so we are going to be using Menti during our time together. So I want to encourage you to either open menti.com, I'm sorry, and then enter the code that you see, or scan the QR code and get that open because we will be utilizing it throughout our time together. Anybody having any issues with that? If you'll raise your hand. And I'd also like to, while we're dealing with some of the logistics, I'd like to encourage you as we see Shayna and we see Jill, we see Matthew, come on camera if you can. Be prepared to come off mute and share with your colleagues. We're here very informal. This is not a training, this is a conversation. So we really hope that you will engage with your colleagues. All right, I don't see any hands raised, so I'm going to assume everybody is at Menti. Here we go. All right, first Menti right away. If you would, please share your name and your job title in the Menti questions that you should see. Does everybody see the question? Everybody's typing. I'll be quiet and let y'all type. All right. Hi, Safari. Thank you. Matthew, thank you. 2 of 9. All right, here we go. Who
Terry,
else? Who else?
this is Andrew Block from the Community Action Association of Pennsylvania. And the reason why I'm not on camera is that I'm in my mobile office driving back from Harrisburg.
Ah,
I'm going to be the straggler, although Matt can probably maybe do a little bit if anything needs to come from me in particular. I can talk, but I just can't go on camera or type anything in. But
Good.
I'm
Yes.
the director of public policy for the Community Action Association of Pennsylvania.
Thank you. Thank you, Andrew. And thank you for sharing that with us. No texting and driving. Absolutely
Yes.
none. So
No,
thank you for.
I'm on an interstate, so definitely no texting and driving for sure.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely. Thank you for coming off mute and sharing that with us. And please join us as you can safely.
Thank you.
All right. Well, let's go ahead and move on to the next slide. A few of you may want to pop your uh, name and titles in the chat. I thank you. All right. So here's the next question. How long have you been in community action? Now, we're not necessarily asking how long you have been at the association because those might be two different answers. So add it all up and let us know. Less than 6 months. Nice. Love to get brand new folks. Who else? Anybody else? All right. Couple of experienced folks, we'll say, for the 10 plus years. All right. Well, good to see a good selection across. So we'll talk a little bit about, what your experience has been and kind of what you have learned along your path with community action. Next question, we're going to drill down a little bit more. How long have you been at your state association? Okay. Right. All right. So everybody followed the rules, right? We said 5 years or fewer. So everybody's a rule follower here. Got it. You're my people. You are my tribe. Okay, three less than 6 months, and 6 months to a year. So I really want to. Mary Beth says the rule breakers are her tribe. Okay, I really want to encourage those of you who've been here less than a year. Lean in, make those connections now. It will serve you well, not only now, but in the future as well, as you build your career in community action and at the state association. And now we're going to make you think a little bit. What is one thing that you hope to learn today from our time together? And while you're thinking, I will share that we're going to share the recording of this with you after our time together. I don't know if any of you ever lead webinars or speak or anything, but it's so hard for somebody like me to sit here and be quiet while you guys are thinking and typing into into the Menti. Everything in me wants to say, and next, and next, and next slide, next slide.
We
All
can
right, who's
also offer up that if you're having a hard time typing in, if you just want to throw something in verbally, like all doors are
oh
valid
yeah,
here, okay?
that's right,
Whatever
that's right.
works best for you.
And if you don't even like Menti, you don't ever have to type anything into Menti. I'm a talker, as you can tell, so please come off mute even.
I'm
Put it
just
in.
gonna chime in. This is Mia Troy. I am a terrible texter, and so I'm finding I'm having to fix all my errors, so it's taking me forever to even give you an answer. So that's my struggle.
So Mia, do you have to have correct grammar and syntax and
Yes,
spelling?
ma'am, I
Yes.
absolutely do. It will
See,
drive me crazy if I don't.
see, you really are my tribe. We might be related. All right, so let's take a look at some of the feedback here. So more about how NCAP works with state associations. Okay, thank you for that. Differences between the different state associations, experiences from other new state association members. So that is a call out. That is a request here to hear from you guys as we open things up. Ways to expand awareness of community action in our state, more about other state associations and how they operate, connections between state associations and NCAP, and then get a deeper understanding of the national structure of community action. We certainly hope to touch on all of those if, as we move through, if you have a question, if you're like, wait a minute, say a little bit more, please raise your hand or come off mute, and let me know. All right, let's see if I can get to the next slide. Oh, what do I have to do, Mary Beth?
You just have to click finish voting. Friends, if you use Menti, this is a new thing Menti's doing, and I don't understand the added step. And if you know the secret to make it not do that, please tell me.
Please, please, please.
Yeah.
All right, next slide. Here we go. All right, so I do believe, Mary Beth, am I going to turn over to you now?
You are. And in direct response to the request to explain the Community Action Network nationally, we put in this slide, right? Just like that in the 2 seconds since y'all said that. But, um, you know, first off, if you are new to the Community Action family, welcome. We're happy that you're here. It's the Community Action Network, I think, has some of the best people I've ever met. Every time I'm in a room of my community action colleagues, I know I breathe a little bit easier. And I can just remember, joining the network and like feeling like I found my home. And what I hope for all of you is that you find that same experience. The Community Action Network is incredibly different and diverse and responsive to their local needs. So there are about a little more than 950 community action agencies coast to coast. Every one of those community action agencies looks a little bit different. They provide different services. They have different models. They have different boards and structures. And that is by design because community action is meant to be responsive to those local needs. And we know that the local needs in Seattle, Washington are different than what's here in Louisville, Kentucky. It's different than what's in Little Rock, Arkansas, or wherever you're calling in from. You all see that at a state level, right? You get to know your community action members and they're all a little bit different in your state, right? Depending on where they're situated. So just nationally, that plays out all across the country. There are about 44 state associations coast to coast. Not all states have a state association. There are some states that only have one community action agency, and so maybe they don't have an association or they caucus with another association. The state of Delaware is a good example of that. They work with the Maryland Association, but states like not Arkansas, oh my goodness, Alaska, the other A initial, Alaska, also one community action agency. They don't have their own state association. But in every one of the states, there is a state CSBG lead agency, which you often hear referred to as the CSBG state office. They are the ones who receive the federal funding from our federal funder, the Office of Community Services. The money goes to the state office, and then the state office distributes that funding amongst the local community action network. Some of you get funding from the state office as well to provide training and technical assistance and support to that community action network. But that's not in every state that happens. So I did want to flag that for you. We also have an incredible team of national partners who are here to support all levels of this network. I'm going to talk more about them in a minute. And, all of this, for all of these differences amongst our incredible network, at the end of the day, we all stand in the same purpose, which is to address the causes and conditions of poverty, right? And make America a better place to live. We're looking to create workable solutions that help connect families to opportunity, regardless of what role you sit in this incredible network. So next slide, please. So those community action agencies, I kind of just talked about this, but just want to, name again that they do lots of different things, right? Depending on what their local needs are. But, if you were to kind of boil it down into some big buckets, community action agencies are trying to help individuals and families uh, uh, connect to approaches that will help them to succeed, support them in their journeys. We also work at a more broad community level, to address some of those bigger ecosystem challenges that we know persist in communities, right? I can train someone to get a job, but if there are no living wage jobs, then hey, I've got a bigger problem I need to work on. Community action is unique in that it tries to address both levels of that. And then, we are really important player in sharing evidence at the national, state, and local level about what works when it comes to addressing poverty. We are not just service providers. I really see us as kind of incubators and innovators and innovators in addressing poverty nationwide. So the next slide, please. So I just named that there are about 950, a little more community action agencies nationally. I said that they're all different, and that is by design. And part of that design includes that all community action agencies have to do a community needs assessment at least once every 3 years, although your state might require them more frequently. I'm calling to you from Kentucky. In Kentucky, we have to do it every year. Great fun for us. But that community needs assessment is a very intentional part of our process to ensure that agencies are developing very localized strategies to address those local needs. You can only be effective in addressing local needs if you understand what the needs are. That's what the community assessment is meant to do. Because those needs are different and models are different, agencies will run a variety of different types of programs. And you all probably see this within your states as well, right? Some agencies maybe have health services, some have Head Start, some do employment. And it's all really dependent upon, again, what their local needs are and the model, capacity, expertise of that local community action agency. On this slide, we do have for you some of the common programs that CAAs run. But this is just kind of a starter list. Your agencies probably run a variety of other types of programs as well. We can move to the next slide. And then just to kind of address the how the network operates. I know when I came into the network, this always confused me. I'm so thrilled that we're recording this because I will admit, when I worked at a local level, I didn't understand the difference between my state association and my state office. I didn't get it. Don't assume your members get it either, right? Because a lot of us come in and we don't have that base level understanding. And maybe even you are like, hey, I kind of don't know. What does NCAP do versus cap law? I hope that we can address some of those questions here today. The first thing we want to acknowledge is state association friends. You all have one of the most important roles in this network because you kind of touch everybody and you really act as kind of a hub for information sharing and connection between all of these partners and the local community action agency. Our friends at the local level are doing everything they can to address poverty. In some cases, that means that they are not always attuned to what's happening upstream, right? What's NASCASP doing? What's OCS doing? That information may not, make it to the ground level. That's really one of the key roles that you have is to help connect all of this important information and support back down to the local level. And I'll also share and back up from the local level. At NCAP, we don't always have direct contact with CAAs, but you all do. We want to hear from you about what you're seeing and feeling and hearing at the local level. And that goes for all of the partners on this list. So I'm going to go around the spoke here. And yeah, Lauren, I'm going to start right there with OCS because I think that makes a lot of sense. OCS is the Office of Community Services. They are our federal office who receives the Community Services Block Grant and they administer the Community Services Block Grant. CSBG is a block grant, which means that OCS takes that funding and they block it out to the states. The state office, your CSBG state office, then allocates that funding amongst your local community action agencies using some kind of formula. Your state office has also sets a lot of the rules for the program. CSBG and the way it's operated looks incredibly different state to state. In a block grant model, the federal government kind of puts up high level, here's how the funding is used, here are some of the broad requirements, but how the program is actually administered is really more so determined at a state level. So your state office friends are going to be a very important partner for you in your work for sure. So that's our Office of Community Services. If you ever have broad federal questions, what's required, what does that look like? OCS, the website is a really good place to go to see They have federal guidance, they have some tools, there's some resources up there. So you can always check out their website, and I can put that link in the chat. Oh, actually, it's right here. Terry grabbed it for me, so I can just copy and paste it. Look at that. There you go. That's the Office of Community Services that you can check out. So, in addition then to our federal office, we talked about the state offices and their role. There are other national organizations who work in support of the Community Action Network. I think it's really important to acknowledge that we are not, like we're not like funders or kind of regulatory bodies. We exist in support of you and your work and the work of your members. So the first is the National Community Action Partnership. That's us. We are the National Membership Association for the Community Action Network broadly. We're kind of a big version of all of you, right? We exist to provide tools and resources, to share innovative practices, to represent the Community Action Network as best that we can. I'll talk a little bit more about some of the things we do at the end of our session today. CAP Law is our federal part, not our federal, excuse me, our national partner who focuses on all of the legal stuff of running a community action agency. So if you need a legal interpretation of, hey, what does the CSBG Act say I have to do? That's a CAP Law question, and that's a good place to go. Some of you actually are members of CAP Law, and then some of you even pay the dues of all of your member agencies to CAP Law so that they can access those great tools and resources from them. So anything legalese, send it to the lawyers at CAP Law. They are fabulous and great friends. The National Community Action Foundation, NCAF, is our national lobbyist and advocacy arm of the Community Action Network. David Bradley is the executive director there. A lot of you have probably heard that name. He is a legend and does a lot of work directly with Congress to advocate for community action and for CSBG funding in particular. You can be a member of NCAF and receive CAP facts and get good information about what's happening at the national level. And we really recommend that you get tuned in and hooked in there. NCAF regularly hosts coffee chats that provide you an opportunity to learn more about what's going on at the federal level as well. The National Association for State Community Services Programs, NASCAS, is the National Membership Association for all of those state offices I just talked about. So all of those state CSBG lead agencies, they can be members of NASCAS. NASCAS also provides some specialized training and technical assistance related to everyone's favorite word, the CSBG annual report. So they have some great tools to help you with, what data goes where, some great training that can be provided at no cost. All of that comes through NASCAS. ANCERT is the Association of Nationally Certified Roma Trainers, but they are the national the National Association for all of us who are Roma professionals more broadly. So they credential all of the Roma professionals out there. They can provide Roma training. They can help you get hooked up to kind of best in class practices around results-oriented management and accountability. And they're just good people. Get to know them. Reach out, call them. They're awesome folks. The last thing I want to talk about before I know I'm sure everyone's eager for me to stop talking is RPICs, Regional Performance and Innovation Consortia. You might have heard that term before. The RPICs are essentially a mechanism that allows all of the state offices and state associations to regionalize the training and technical assistance for the Community Action Network. So the national network is divided into, I guess it's technically 11 regions because there's a 4A and a 4B. In the RPIC model, there's a lead entity who receives funding from OCS, and then they subgrant money out to the other associations in the region to provide training and technical assistance, and again, to do that coordination for the region more broadly. Sometimes it makes a lot of sense to do TNTA at that more regional level. Safari, I see that you're here. Region 8 is a great example of that. That region works together, on conferences, on webinars, on tools and resources, and it can, really create some or can really amplify your impact, maybe is what I want to say, because you're using the resources of multiple associations to address the needs of everybody. So if you're unfamiliar with the RPIC, I'd recommend that you get tuned in, talk to your executive director. How are you engaged in RPIC, and where can you show up? So, Terry, I have covered that. Is there anything you'd want to add about any of the federal, national partner folks?
I think just one thing that came to mind, Mary Beth, while you were talking, is that our friends at NASCASP also are a great resource in terms of information and disseminating information about weatherization. So I know that some of our state association friends are engaged in weatherization. So I just wanted to bring that forward. Especially their conferences tend to have a strong weatherization uh, track.
That's a great point. Thank you. Friends, does anybody on the call have any questions about any of our national partners? I said, well, I'll go into NCAP a little bit more in depth at the end, but any of our other partners or anything you'd want to add? Okay,
All
here's
right.
one. Terry, I think I'm handing off to you.
I think so. All right, so let's talk a little bit about what the role of state association is. Those roles are, perhaps we should say, because they are many. So Mary Beth mentioned that, one of the things that we see is very common at state associations is that you guys do at least some of the training and technical assistance for your member agencies. And if your agency is the RPIC lead, you may be involved in a state conference or statewide trainings, but you also may be involved in regional conference or regional convenings as well. Um, I kind of am curious whether, oh, I think we'll ask this in a minute. I'm not going to, that's why I was curious, because we do have this question. We also see state associations that are very involved in advocacy. And of course, advocacy can take a lot of different forms. So sometimes we are talking about advocacy for the members of your communities, that your state, the customers of your member agencies. Sometimes you are advocating actually for your member agencies themselves. And sometimes you are doing general advocacy in terms of, what do the efforts to address the causes and conditions of poverty in our state or in our region or in the nation look like. So many state associations play some role in advocacy for our communities and for those that we serve. Communications tends to be core for many state associations, whether that is, again, communicating with your member agencies or whether that is communicating with the community at large. And also, state associations often serve as a central contact point for media contacts as well. So it really depends upon the scope and capacity of your state association, what those communications and information dissemination look like. But I would step out and say that every state association is involved in communicating at least with their members, but generally on a much broader basis as well. Building and strengthening the community action network. We rely on state associations, state association leaders, staff, in many ways in terms of helping to strengthen the network as a whole. Again, think about the efforts that you are engaged in terms of like dropping a pebble into a pond, right, or a bowl of water. There's that ripple effect. And so state associations often start out building and strengthening their network within their state, but the efforts that you engage in also can have that ripple effect and can strengthen the overall community action network. And we often reach out to members, to staff members or leaders at state associations and ask them to do things like join us on webinars and share your perspectives, share your expertise. And that helps to strengthen the network. As well as at our conferences and conventions, we often will have sessions that are actually targeted for state associations, again, with the goal of sharing information, sharing tools, sharing resources, and helping to strengthen our network. Anything you want to add before I move on, Mary Beth? No? Okay. Some other common roles at state association is that leadership development. And so this again can take several, can look different at different organizations. So we're thinking about leadership development both internally. Our state associations are often great building grounds for leaders within the network, but also in terms of how you support your member agencies and the development of leaders within their teams. That we often see that is core. Sometimes state associations will be the conveners of, say, CCAP study groups that help to develop leaders in our network, or may host training cohorts for Answer to get more Roma professionals. So there are various ways that state associations engage in leadership development, and of course that internal leadership development as well, where you grow your team from within. And sometimes folks will grow in the network and leave our associations and maybe, I don't know, go to NCAP or something, right, Mary Beth and me? All right, and then leveraging and influencing funding. So sometimes state associations will be the organization that can be the recipient of funding that can then be disseminated to their networks. They may be able to bring in partners that can help to leverage available funding for their network, and also being able to pull together data and information that can be used by their members as they are seeking additional funding and as they are seeking to leverage their funding. Having that ability to share data and information with your members can really help them in terms of funding as well. And of course, association management. Some of you are involved in the actual management of your association. You are the administrators. You're the finance folks. You are responsible for making sure that our state associations are also impactful and accountable organizations. And so we would be remiss if we didn't mention the importance of having strong internal processes and internal management capacities as well. All right, so Menti question, get your code back up or scan it again. Which of those common roles that we just talked about are you most engaged in? And you can select more than one, so please feel free to select all of your roles. Okay.
I would say NCAP is involved in all of these roles ourselves.
Yeah,
So,
I think
yeah.
so. Okay. Training and technical assistance, kind of expected that. I like seeing the communications and information dissemination. I think that is critical, a crucial role. Building and strengthening the network. Awesome. Awesome.
Yeah,
Okay.
I'll point out that building and strengthening the network, like I'm always reminded, you know, at NCAP, that's like our chief role, right? It's like we don't exist without the network. Like we exist for
Right.
them to be successful. So, and for a lot of you, that's the case as well. I can't imagine an association operating independent of the network. You operate in support of
Yeah.
the network.
Yeah, I don't think so, right? I mean, that is exactly the reason that we are there. All right, so good. It looks like you guys have a broad set of responsibilities at your organization, so that's good to know. It's good for us to know as well as we think about, what kind of resources can we provide to you. Understanding where the most of your work is going is very helpful to us as well. Let me see if I have to do that next slide thing. Oh, next slide went right up for me this time. Look at that. All right, so you may have noticed a gentleman with us today. We have actually asked a colleague to join. Um, we have with us Matt Moser from Community Action Association of Pennsylvania. He is the Community Engagement Manager, and I'm going to ask Matt to come off mute, and Matt's going to share his perspective with us a little bit. Hi, Matt. Anything
Hey,
you want to
thank
say to?
yeah, I appreciate it, and thanks everybody for having me. I'm in an interesting role today because I'm a colleague speaking, but I'm also right there with you. I've been with the Community Action Association of Pennsylvania for just over a year, so I still consider myself new to the state association. But prior to the state association, I spent about 3 years with a local community action agency working in food security programming, and then had a brief stint away from community action in between with one of our large state food bank associations. But yeah, I'm really just here to kind of talk about my experience with making that transition and how important the state association was in my role as a local agency staff member, but then also kind of transitioning into my role at a state agency. So I started at it's South Central Community Action Program, which was the local agency that I worked at when I was 22, and it was my first job out of college. And community action, when you first get into it, no matter what age you get into it, if you've never been in it, it feels massive and it feels so hard to understand what's going on and what all the acronyms mean. Admittedly, even some of the acronyms we went over today, I did not know what they meant. So you never quite catch up. Um, but it can be really intimidating to start at a local agency. Absolutely. Yeah. Big learning curve. And so the state association uh, in PA, CAP, when I was at my local agency, played a huge role in that. So they provided the training, the convenings, the conferences, the summits that they put on really helped in my journey, kind of becoming what I would consider as kind of okay in community action. I wouldn't say I'm an expert in community action yet, but I think I know my way around a little bit at this point. But yeah, they do cohort calls and those conferences. And in fact, my the second year I was with SCAP, we call it, I was able to attend my first conference, and that's where I met our CEO, Beck Moore. And that whole conference and the experience with meeting the CAP team and all of the different learning experiences I was able to have through that conference, really, I feel like kind of set in stone that I knew I wanted to stay in community action. It was a huge part of my journey along the way. And those little interactions you have with your state agency members when you're at that local agency feel so big. Getting to talk to Beck and getting to talk to some of the other members of CAP at the time, it felt like a big deal. And it is a big deal because, again, community action feels so big when you get to have those direct communication points and get to talk to the people at the state agencies. It really means a lot, even if they seem kind of like passing conversations. So yeah, I mean, and I don't just want to talk. I want this to be kind of a conversation and hear you all's experience with if you transition from a local agency or if you came straight into a state agency and kind of how that's been. Um, but yeah, all I'll say is that my entire experience working at my local agency, the state agency played a huge role in my growth, in my development, in my understanding of the work that we're doing. I graduated with a degree in biology. Not exactly the
Oh,
most straight, yeah, not exactly the most straightforward for getting into this type of work. So I was definitely a fish out of water when I started. But this really, again, both the people at my local agency, but specifically the people at my state agency really made me feel like I fit, even though it kind of felt like I shouldn't. And so the role that we have, and I take this very seriously because of my experience, so the role that we have as state agency members is so important. And again, those interactions that we get to have with those local agency members is so important. And there are some nuances to that, some of the obvious things that every local agency is so different, and those interactions are going to be so different because an agency in one part of the state is completely different than an agency in another part of the state. But communicating, connecting is really kind of the end all be all for this type of work. So yeah, I'd love to, if there are any questions or comments or other experiences, I'd love to kind of open it up to everybody and see what everybody else has to say.
Anybody have a question or a comment for Matt?
This is Mia again. I don't have a question at the moment, but Matt, how big is your staff at the state agency there?
Yeah, so our staff, I don't want to get it wrong. I believe we have 13 on our staff right now, which seems small, but I know for a state agency, it's actually not that small.
Yeah, well, I think we're at 5 or 6 right now. So it's, you guys have done outstanding work across the nation. It's just been incredible. And Beck as a leader is becoming legendary, I think. But definitely that you bring up the nuances of the work, and absolutely that's something that my background is coming from a nonprofit, not related to community action, but education, and going straight into the state agency, which I've been with for slightly over 3 years now. But the nuances have been very interesting because, as Terry was talking about at the very beginning, between supporting the rural agencies with the urban agencies is vastly different, in terms of what they need. And so it's really vital for state agencies to be very aware of those changing needs across their regions. And it can be certainly a delicate balance to walk, especially in the varying political environments that we're working in. So I just wanted to kind of state my appreciation for your agency in general and the work you're doing to lead the way overall, as well as NCAP, obviously. We rely heavily on all of you for the leadership that you guys provide, and it's been vital to us, absolutely.
Thanks, Mia. Matt, if you were going to, you did have a relationship with CAP before you came to work for them, but I'm sure you still had a learning curve. If you had to think about one big aha moment that you had when you first started working for CAP, what might that be?
That's a great question. And it's going to sound cliche. It's going to sound like something we all know, but the big aha moment is that you have to tailor your conversations and your support to each individual agency. Like, you really can't have a statewide approach to training and support and assistance. You have to, exactly what Mia was just saying, like, you have to understand the agency. And actually, I'll kind of have a two-parter to this. You have to understand the agency while also understanding that you don't understand the agency as well as the members of that staff. I think that's super important. That's something I learned not only at CAP, but at my role at a food bank. You feel, because you're working with these programs every day and you're working with many of these programs all across the state, that you know the programs, and you feel in your heart that you understand and you get it. You will never get it as much as the people who are working in it every day. And I think that's something really important, just to kind of level set with yourself, that those direct service workers at our local agencies are the experts. And we obviously know what we're doing. We're very knowledgeable and trained on this stuff, but we don't know their clients like they do. We don't know their agency like they do. We don't know their area like they do. So really kind of trying to support while also learning from those that you're supporting is also a really important part. And in kind of wrapping all that together, on learning about each of your agencies, and that can be hard. I mean, in PA we have quite a few, So it can be hard to learn about each individual local agency on the level that you feel like you should. But at least having an understanding of the area, the people that are coming to those local agencies, I think is really important.
Thank you. All right. Anybody have any last questions or comments before we move on? Matt, thank you so much for joining us. And you are going to stick around in case folks have questions as we move on. Is that correct?
Yeah, absolutely.
I see Lauren
Sorry,
has a question.
sorry, and I realized my hand was like fading
I
into
didn't
the
see
background
it.
of my no, my hand. I just raised my hand and it was fading into the
Yeah, go ahead, Lauren. I'm sorry.
blurry background. I'm sorry. I don't know if this is a question or a comment, but I am coming up on a year with the state agency in Oregon, and my previous to that, I'm new to community action. My background is in rural community economic development and policy work, and so I appreciated Mia I think that was Mia, your question, and I am when you were talking about community engagement really being focused on the agency, the region, right? Of course, and it made I do utility policy work for the state association, so my world is very much in the like aggregate position, and I'm just really curious. I was looking at your website and I see that you put a lot of emphasis on community engagement, just by nature of like your staffing, and I don't know if this is a question or just something that I'm putting something out there that I'm grappling with is the how you work on both of those things, right? Like local solutions that then feed into this this need to have maybe an aggregate policy position recognizing nuance. I'm curious how what that looks like in Pennsylvania, and how you connect the dots between policy and the community engagement side.
Yeah, that's a great question, and I have a bit of an odd answer, but so our community engagement team is actually a contract that was received through our DHS team or through our state DHS. So that is specifically a program, and that's the program I work on, called PA Navigate. They partnered with CAP, DHS partnered with CAP to roll out this resource and referral platform for the state of Pennsylvania. And so our community engagement team connects with not only community action agencies, but any social services throughout the state of Pennsylvania, engaging them on this platform. So that's why it seems like we're so heavy community engagement. But that's a great question, and I think that is something that a lot of agencies kind of deal with, is what to focus on in terms of, do you push efforts into advocacy, because real change and real large change can happen with advocacy. But then that community engagement side is that other piece that we were talking about with growing and strengthening the network. So it is absolutely a difficult balance. But that kind of explains our side and why we have such a large community engagement team. Also, why we have such a large team in general. So like I said, we had 13. But prior to this contract, that contract actually funds 5 of our positions. So prior to that contract, we were sitting around 7 or 8.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Do other folks have ideas for Lauren though? Like, are other folks dealing with that?
Yeah.
How you do both things? How you plug in locally and then also aggregate and make a meaningful, broad approach?
So in our state, we've got our director, of course, and then we've got a policy advocacy person specifically, and they will collectively go out and do agency visits and kind of do that very direct approach. And then our advocacy person is, of course, gathering information from every agency about what their needs and focuses are. And then we work extremely closely with our legislation here in the state, and just do a lot. Yeah, Shay, absolutely, absolutely fantastic. But yeah, we're deeply embedded in all of that. It's a huge part of what we're doing. But what we also have been doing this past year, I should say, is a lot of Zoom meetings with the agencies in planning out kind of communications in their regions specifically, so they can kind of get the message out to their communities as well as their legislators about what the needs are, where the gaps are, things like that. And then collectively in the state, kind of developing an overall message that can then go to legislation during the sessions and things like that, as well as, again, back out to the state communities everywhere about all these various needs. So there's a lot of bridge building going on, a lot of direct meetings happening with them, a lot of bandwidth being used.
Yeah, sure.
In some ways, I feel like you can't do the big work without the small work. Does that make sense? It's like you can't do the big picture unless you understand the on the ground.
Yeah,
The pieces.
that deep dive is vital to ensuring that you have the right messaging going out that's correctly reflecting those agencies and their needs. Again, it goes back to rural is very, very different from urban and suburban. Very, very different. And it's got to be right. Otherwise, the work that you're doing in advocacy and policy will not translate correctly when you're doing that work. It's got to be right. You got to talk with them directly.
Yes, absolutely. Okay, guys, let thank you again, Matt. We greatly appreciate it, and thank you for the conversation, you guys.
Yeah.
Let's keep it going. I'm going to turn back over to Mary Beth, and she's going to talk about our members a little bit more.
Yeah, and I kind of feel like we've actually talked a lot about these concepts just in the conversation we had. We as membership associations, we exist to care for and feed and support our members. And to do that, we have to understand our members. It's the same concept of, community action agencies are responsive to their local needs. They have to do a community assessment. Associations, you have to understand your members and what they need. And I guess I would add to that there are times where it might feel a little bit like, there's times that you're responding to what you see, but there's also times where the association is going to need to lead too, right? And like you can make a big difference in terms of like sharing new innovative ideas or bringing new concepts to the network to support them in their development. So you're kind of doing both things. You're being responsive and you're keeping your eye on the horizon to go, where can we go next and how can we build for that future, right? And bringing that to your members. Some of the best advice, I think, really is just build those personal relationships, get the cell phone numbers, get the, those connections that you can have. If you haven't been out to a community action agency on the ground, seeing programs operate, that would be one of my first asks, of your boss is, hey, I want to go out and spend some time with one of our members and just get to see and understand as best you can that real lived experience of working in the network. I always feel like that is never time wasted. Time spent in an agency is never time wasted. And I always feel like anytime I visit an agency, I know this might sound silly, but to me, it feels like sacred ground. Every time I go in there, I recognize it is ground for transformation for people. And it's just so inspiring to sit and be in that. Um, I mentioned the engagement, and I think we've all kind of talked about this engagement in training and technical assistance. Friends, some of you have a bigger role in the provision of training and technical assistance. That role may change with time too. I mean, that's the other thing I'll say is that, sometimes it feels like you're really heavy in TNTA. Sometimes maybe you're a little bit lighter. Your role will evolve as the needs of your members evolve. But I frequently see associations who, they go to the national conferences, they go to the webinars, they do all of that to bring it to their members, right? To connect their members to those resources. And it is so important because, as I said, the work of an agency is great. And they may not always have time to sit in on the webinar, or they might not have the resources to go to the conference. And so it's really important, friends, that you are plugged in and consuming, the best in class practices and learning about the resources that are available so that you can connect to your members. And then that last point about responsiveness is just so critical that we're, you know, um, that we're being responsive to what our members need in a timely way. And we at NCAP try to embody that too. If you ever feel like we're not, please call us, call Denise Harlow. She wants to know. we always want to be responsive ultimately to our members and their needs. So, okay, on the next slide, Terry, I think. So we don't want to leave you all without talking a little bit about the National Community Action Partnership and what specifically we do. Um, so you can see right up top, we see our role as connecting, supporting, and leveraging the expertise of all of those fabulous community action agencies. And really, we should add and state associations. State associations, you're our members too, right? And so we exist to support, in support of all of you. So you will see what we do. We do a lot of training. There's a lot of webinars. We have a regular webinar Wednesday schedule. If you haven't checked out our webinar Wednesday schedule, go onto our website. There's a ton of things for you to watch and learn and engage with. We also do some more in-depth technical assistance. Some of that work is fee for service. And if you need deeper technical assistance, you can reach out to us. We're always happy to talk about those kinds of projects. All of the time we're putting out new tools, new toolkits, all of that good stuff that you can use for yourself and also for your members. Last year, in response to some of the changing financial situation, you saw a lot of tools around scenario planning, board work in uncertain financial times. We put out all of those kinds of tools. So, we're always developing new ones. If you have ideas about needs, we want to be responsive to. So tell us what you are seeing that you need at the local level. I talked about the webinars, and then we also run learning cohorts on a pretty regular basis. A lot of times those learning cohorts come at no cost for member agencies. So be plugged in, make sure you're tracking what we've got going on. We do host two big national conferences every year. We host the Management and Leadership Training Conference each year, typically in January, maybe the first week of February, every once in a blue moon. That conference is a smaller conference that is really meant for the managers and leaders of the Community Action Network. Denise always calls it like graduate school for community action. So that's like where you get to go really deep and nitty gritty into management concepts. So if you're a geek like us, you'll have a great time. And then the annual convention is our kind of big get together every year that we host in August. Although in this year, somehow the calendar worked out that it's like September 1 to the 3rd. Calendars are weird. Time is weird. But that conference, friends, has about, anywhere from 1,300 to 1,600 of our closest community action friends who come together. And we have a ton of different sessions for everything from frontline staff to executive directors to board members. So that's a great conference to attend. And I remember my first one of those was overwhelming and also just incredible. So I hope you get to come to one of those. We do also host other events from time to time. We have skill builders. We did a data convening. We have different kinds of trainings for new executive directors, for instance, or for EDs and board chairs to come together. So always be keeping an eye on our upcoming training schedule. It may or may not be relevant for you, but part of your job is to know the right tool to give to a member when they need it. So knowing kind of what's out there and possible will serve you really well. We also have, we get frequent questions about how do we make sure that community action isn't the best kept secret in the country. And one of the things that NCAP tries to do is we try to give some good branding guidance. Those 950 different agencies all have their own names, but gosh, it sure helps if we all have a similar logo, or if we all brand ourselves as a community action agency or use a common color palette. And if you want to kind of tap into some of those branding resources, we have them on the NCAP website. We have a whole branding guide, all of the color codes and all that good stuff. And then we're regularly putting out plug and play kinds of communications that you can leverage both in your state and your members can leverage as well. Actually, later this week, we will be rolling out the Community Action Month Toolkit. And Community Action Month, we celebrate it every May. That Community Action Month Toolkit has social media graphics and a calendar of activities and all kinds of different things that you can do to promote community action more broadly and celebrate community action more broadly. And I'll point out that toolkit, friends, is good for any month out of the year. You don't have to only use it in May. There's lots of good stuff that can be used year round. We do some advocacy as well. We, of course, work very closely and defer to NCAF for all things, lobbying and legislative. But of course, we exist to support and advocate for the Community Action Network. For instance, when the last CSBG annual report um, underwent some projected changes from the federal office, NCAP put together comments, right? We listened to you, we put together comments, we submitted comments on behalf of the network. That's the kind of work that NCAP does on a regular basis. We also host or sponsor the Certified Community Action Professional certification. And I'll share that personally, becoming a CCAP was one of the best things I ever did for myself, not just professionally, but really on a personal level. It deepened my connection and understanding and appreciation for community action. And I think it has made me a better professional. CCAP is one of those things that we think it's really important that state associations staff be CCAPs because you all are leaders in your states. And your colleagues and members will look to you and will pay attention if you are a CCAP as well. And so some associations host CCAP study groups. We're always happy to kind of help you plug into CCAP, and there's more information on our website on that. We also host our Pathways to Excellence program. That is specifically for community action agencies, but Pathways to Excellence supports community action agencies as they seek to engage in a continuous improvement process and align their practices with best-in-class practices from the nonprofit and broader community action sector. So Pathways to Excellence is a great thing to plug into. We have lots of resources for the CSBG org standards, another kind of favorite of everybody. If y'all ever want to talk about org standards, Terry and I will geek out with you at any time, any place on the org standards. We have tons of tools, though, if you need help in that space as well. We have a fabulous energy partnerships team. It says weatherization. It's weatherization plus, 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 plus. Mia on our team, Mia Harnos leads up our weatherization and energy team. They have their own newsletter. Make sure that you're plugged in there. They have a great webinar series that's happening now. And they regularly have training cohorts and opportunities for agencies and associations who are engaged in the energy space. And then I'll just point out, we have a ton of different ways that you can engage and your members can engage with the national partnership. We have national commissions, we have our board, we have regional reps that you can always connect with. If you have feedback for NCAP, you want to make sure that we're being responsive to your needs, get to know our board members, reach out to your regional rep. We want to be as responsive as possible to all of you. We do also have a young professionals group. I feel like that's important to note with so many young people joining the network. We really want them to stay. And so if you know a great young professional, please encourage them to join our young professionals group and work. Terry, I just talked a whole bunch. What have I missed about NCAP and the work that we do?
I think you pretty much covered it, Mary Beth. I was waiting to hear that young professionals prompt because I think we have some potential newbies for that group. I was lucky enough to speak with the Region 2 folks, I think it was, recently. Great, great, great young folks joining the network. I think that's about it, though, Mary Beth. What else?
Friends, do you have questions about NCAP or what we do or how we work? We do have some regular points of contact with associations. It is typically with your executive directors. There's a monthly call that we hold. We do some special webinars and sessions for state associations. When you come to conferences, you will see special state association sessions. So, we try to be responsive to your needs as well. But any questions about what we do yeah, Lauren.
Just a quick question. So does NASCASP is a little bit more oriented to the CSBG lead agency, which might be like our state, like in Oregon, it's OHCS, it's the state
Yes.
agency. And NCAP is a little bit more oriented toward the agencies and the state associations.
That's exactly
Totally.
Okay, great.
That's exactly correct. Now, the one nuance with NASCASP is that they do receive funding from our federal funder, the Office of Community Services, to provide training and technical assistance on the CSBG annual report. And so in that regard, that's where I see most of like the agency and NASCASP interaction happening is just in that kind of annual report space. So because they're funded to do that. Yeah. But you've got it exactly right. Great job. Okay. If there are no further questions, oh, we wanted to know, hey, what have you guys participated in? Or friends, was there anything, you can respond on the Menti, but are there any events that were like really impactful to you or anything you would recommend to your colleagues to engage in or participate in? And maybe it's not even NCAP, maybe it's other national, we are not the only national partner, right? CAP fabulous, NCAF, fabulous, NASCAS, fabulous. We're all great.
We're all fabulous.
We're all
If
fabulous.
we do say so ourselves.
Yeah. Has there been any of that national stuff that you found like really helpful overall? Or I see Mia gave some love to CCAP in the chat, which I think is, don't be
Fabulous.
scared, just jump in.
It's
I can't
great.
plug that enough, by the way. The CCAP is really, really outstanding. And it was a little daunting how much I didn't know and how much I still need to learn. So I can't plug that enough. If you want a solid foundation for all things community action, that's the way to go.
Yeah.
Same. Thank you, Mia. If I had one, I drank the Roma Kool-Aid very early in my career, but if I had one thing that I wish I had done earlier, it would have been getting my CCAP. Just because of the depth of knowledge that you get in terms of not just our history, but the best practices that our organizations can and do deploy. So, yeah. All right. Looks like we need a few folks at our management leadership training conference. So, as y'all think about your training, your professional development plans, your opportunities to travel to training, keep us in mind. Make sure that you're checking those dates, and we'll talk about how you can make sure that you're receiving e-news and all that kind of stuff as we close today. So,
Terry.
anything else you want to go ahead?
Yeah, I'm sorry. I just had one other thing I wanted to make sure I said. When you're coming out and you're seeing great sessions at NCAP or at our annual convention or MLTC, or you see a great webinar, a lot of you put on conferences for your members as well. NCAP travels. We come out to conferences all of the time. And so if you have particular need, please think of us. We can do custom webinars. We can do custom training. Just keep us in mind as a TNTA provider with you.
Yeah, absolutely. And as Maribeth said, we do travel. We come to state conferences, we come to RPIC conferences, and so we're happy to work up a proposal if we can assist in some way. Just reach out to Maribeth or me or anybody. No wrong door at NCAP. All right, so I'm going to talk a little bit about. Oh no, Mary Beth, were you? No, I was going to do this. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do this right now. I'm going to talk a little bit about some resources that we wanted to share with you. Lots of QR codes. So, and we will again share this slide deck, so you don't have to make sure that you're snapping all these QR codes. But we have a fantastic resource in the NCAP Data Hub. When I was at the State Association in Arkansas, I would say that this is probably, other than attending webinars and that type of thing, this is probably the NCAP tool that I used the most. I used it both as a State Association staff member and director to be able to pull either statewide or specific data. I could map it. I could help an agency drill down into some of their data. We provided a lot of assistance in helping staff members at local agencies who were responsible for their community assessments. We provided technical assistance to them as they accessed the data hub and pulled the data that they needed. A lot of assistance that we provided to our members in terms of getting some data for grant applications, as well as when they needed information for communications, if they had been asked for data from, say, a media outlet or something. So if you have not done a dive into the NCAP Data Hub and you are responsible in any way for data, for communications, I highly, highly recommend that you get in there, create a user account, and check it out. The capacity is amazing. There's a mapping tool, all kinds of things. And again, lots of resources that we can share with you in terms of webinar recordings. And we have a webinar coming up in May. So again, this is something that if you want more information, please reach out to me or Mary Beth. We're happy to connect you. We also have a partnership with the Nonprofit Risk Management Center. They have some great tools that are available to the network, a comprehensive risk assessment tool. There's a staff survey tool that allows agencies to gauge their staff perspectives on their policies and procedures and deployment of those. Again, lots of webinars, lots of resources. Sample policies are available at the website, so highly recommend that you become familiar with that. Probably more so that you can refer your members to it as they come to you with questions about these types of resources. Did you want to say something, Mary Beth?
Yeah, I want to add a quick thing here. So NCAP pays for all Community Action Network members to be what are called affiliate members of the Nonprofit Risk Management Center. So you will see from time to time that NRMC, Nonprofit Risk Management Center, will host special events. They have their own conference, they have webinars that are either free for affiliate members or at a lower cost for affiliate members. And so if you see that, friends, all of you are affiliate members. When you sign up for whatever, you just have to say, we're affiliated with the Community Action Network, and you'll get that lower rate. I did want to flag that NRMC is hosting an upcoming AI summit called Only Human. And I want to put that in, yes, I did put that in the chat for you. So this is one of those events that like you will get a lower registration rate because you are an affiliate member. And that applies to all of your members as well, all of your Community Action Agency members. So thanks, Terry.
Excellent. Thank you. Thank you, Mary Beth. Another resource that I want to introduce you to is the Community Action Academy. This is our learning management system. Within Community Action Academy, there are different e-courses. We host some of our cohort engagements through there. Many of the courses that are available are self-paced and cover topics like coaching. We have different resources available on whole family approach. So again, if you have not set up an account and taken a tour of all of the resources, I would encourage you to do that here. And I mentioned we're going to share information about subscribing. So there are probably three major publications from NCAP. We have a weekly e-newsletter. So we will share the information with you on subscribing to that. Additionally, we have a Fresh Finds newsletter, which is, I'm going to get the acronyms wrong. Help me, Mary Beth, is it CEM? Or am I, yes, CEM. Okay. Community economic mobility. And then we also have a fantastic Weatherization Plus newsletter where our energy folks share information about resources and trainings and opportunities to engage there. Connect with us, please, on social media. We have an official Facebook page as well as our LinkedIn page. And so we encourage you to connect with us there, and you'll see a lot of updates about where we go, or may even see your own name in lights as we come out to your events. And finally, here is some contact information for some of our folks at NCAP. Of course, Denise Harlow is our CEO. Ryan Gelman is our Director of Public Policy and Advocacy, a great resource, especially for state associations. You know me and Mary Beth. Mia Harnos is the Director of Energy Partnerships. And then if you have a general training or technical assistance request, we have a dedicated website, NCAP Helps at Community Action Partnership. Feel free to reach out at any time for additional information, or if you would like for us to submit a proposal to come out to your conferences, that type of thing. Last but not least, please take a quick survey. Included in this survey is the opportunity for you guys to share what topics would you like to hear from us on. Is there a webinar topic or a workshop topic that you would like to see us provide for state associations? We need that feedback from you so that we can provide your needs, meet your needs in terms of training, technical assistance, and toolkits and that type of thing. So that's what I had to say about that. I'm going to look and see. I think Mary Beth popped all of the links in the chat. There we go. Thank you, Mary Beth. So I will open things up. Any questions? Anything we didn't touch on that you guys wanted to hear from us? You promised to fill out the evaluation, right? Okay, good. I check. I do check.
She does immediately. Like you all will hang up and Tara will be scrolling through evaluation results.
Well, I'm just wired that way. Sorry. Look at Mia. She's already, all right. Thank you, Mia. Okay, guys. Well, that's what we had to say. If you don't have any other questions, we will thank you for your time, your attention, your input. Again, please remember, we are here to support you. And if we don't have a resource, we'll figure out who does or we'll make it up. All right. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Bye, y'all.
Thanks.
Thanks. Bye.